The book is about civil war and state building in Germany in the 19th century. I decided to look at quite a wide range of sources. I visited about 30 different archives and libraries. As I said, I looked at memoirs, I looked at police records, I looked at government memoranda, but also very personal sources in family papers and personal archives. And the more I studied those, the more I found that there's a far greater story to tell than has been told so far. My hope is that the book will be read and enjoyed by a general audience. I try to structure the book in such a way that it does appeal to people that have some background knowledge in European but also American history, because, as I mentioned, my book is transnational and it is comparative. So some background knowledge would be of benefit, but at the same time I try to make it fun and interesting for everybody. And at the same time, I think the book will also appeal to scholars and also general audiences that have an interest in themes as opposed to area studies, specific countries, because my book does address quite a lot of different themes. Like, it focuses on memory, it focuses on the role of the military as an agent of socialization. It also focuses on the role of charity as an instrument of bonding, and also democracy, politics, elections, the education system, and finally the media. I think the book operates on two levels. Of course, it is about a book about history, so in one sense the message is the insights are historical. In the 19th century context, I see my book as a testament to the ingenuity of the human spirit, because civil wars are intense conflicts. They are terrible, intense, but at the same time they also bring out certain creative energies, because both sides in a civil war have to justify their causes. And especially, I think, in the 19th century, the idea of liberty was central. So we can learn a lot about the way societies in conflict, how they envisioned liberty, and how they used the trope of liberty to justify their respective causes. In the second instance, I think, and this again relates to the historical message, the 19th century was a period of state building. So once the Civil War was over, those societies that had just fought each other, had just killed each other, needed to find common ground again. And when I say common ground, this in one sense meant commonalities, but at the same time, state building also required opportunities for dissent. And so from the book we can learn a lot about the way conflict was handled, and in some ways contained, not necessarily dissolved. And so this is, as I said, the historical context. But when we look at sort of the contemporary relevance, I think there are a lot of messages, even though the 19th century was in many ways very different from the present, because when we look at the role of the church, when we look at the role of the monarchy, those institutions play a rather different role today. But at the same time, there are many signs, you could say, in the present that actually point to a resurgence of similar problems that we did see in the 19th century. Civil wars today evoke notions of burnt-out buildings in villages, Syria, and of warlords. But in actual fact, there is a different kind of civil war too. A civil war that is about control of government. It's also about the idea, again, about who controls the government, who determines the fate of nations. And this is the kind of civil war, or the spirit of civil war, that we kind of see happening again in the United States, and also to some extent, I should say, in Britain too, in the context of Brexit. Because civil wars, they're not just about physical violence. Civil wars start with rhetorical violence first. And we do see signs in the United States in the context of the Charlottesville, the incident, that rhetorical violence can very quickly spiral into actual violence. And civil wars are about polarized opinions. We see this happening in the States, we see this happening in Britain, but we also see this in other countries where, due to financial crises, due to political crises, a polarization is taking place. And so what we can learn from the book is that we need to be very careful how we use language and how we speak about our opponents, and to what extent we allow our opponents the right to speak, to express their opinions, and to what extent we actually respond to this. So even a general audience that perhaps has no knowledge of German history can probably find strands in the book that does very much resonate with what is going on today.